My boss looked me straight in the eye and said, "Do your job or leave." I looked at him for a moment. Then I simply nodded. So, I left. But before I walked out, I checked one thing: my employment contract. No non-compete, no restriction, nothing stopping me from starting my own agency. The next morning, his biggest client called me. 5 minutes later, another one called. Then, a third. By lunchtime, almost 70% of his department's revenue was gone. And when he realized why, he called me 12 times. For almost 6 years, I worked as a senior account manager at a mid-sized marketing agency. On paper, my boss, Richard, managed all the major accounts. Reality was very different. Every proposal, every emergency call, every weekend campaign launch, every client complaint, every late-night strategy meeting, that was me. Richard only appeared when it was time to smile during presentations or collect praise from upper management. Clients constantly emailed me directly because they knew I'd answer within minutes. They trusted me. Some even joked, "If you ever leave, we'll leave too." I always laughed. Back then, I honestly believed they were just being polite. I had absolutely no idea how true those words would become. Things changed after Richard got promoted. The small amount of humility he once had disappeared overnight. He stopped asking for updates. He started giving orders. He demanded to approve every email before it went to clients. Projects that once took hours now took days. Then he introduced the most ridiculous rule I'd ever seen. No employee was allowed to communicate with clients without copying him on every message. Not because he wanted visibility, because he wanted control. Clients hated it. Instead of getting immediate answers, they waited while Richard ignored emails for hours. Whenever they complained, he blamed us. "Your communication isn't clear enough." Yet, he never even read half the messages. The final straw came during our biggest quarterly presentation. I'd spent nearly 3 weeks building a complete growth strategy for our largest client. I worked nights, skipped family dinners, even canceled a weekend trip. Presentation day arrived. Richard walked into the boardroom carrying my presentation. He didn't introduce me. He didn't thank me. He simply started presenting every slide as though he'd created it himself. Every idea, every chart, every strategy, mine. At the end, the client stood up and congratulated Richard. He smiled proudly, then accepted every compliment without saying my name even once. I sat there in complete silence. After the meeting, I confronted him privately. I spent weeks preparing that. He barely looked up from his phone. "We're a team." "No. You took credit." He sighed dramatically. "If your ego is getting in the way, maybe you're not a good fit here." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then came the sentence that changed everything. "If you don't like how I run things, do your job or leave." That night, instead of updating my resume, I opened my employment contract. I'd never paid much attention to the legal language before. This time, I read every single page. There was a confidentiality agreement, perfectly reasonable. There was a non-solicitation clause that had expired years earlier after an amendment, but there was something missing. No enforceable non-compete. I checked with an employment lawyer the following morning, just to be certain. He read the contract slowly. Then he looked up and smiled. "You're free to start your own agency. What about my existing clients? As long as they choose you voluntarily and you don't take confidential information, you're on solid ground." That was all I needed to hear. Instead of acting emotionally, I started planning. Quietly, carefully, professionally. That weekend, I registered my own marketing agency, opened a business bank account, built a simple website, ordered business cards, created new email addresses. Everything was ready before Monday. Then, I waited, not for revenge, for opportunity. Over the next 2 weeks, I continued doing excellent work. I treated every client exactly the same. No shortcuts, no gossip, no complaints about Richard. Eventually, several clients asked the very same question. "I heard you've been unhappy lately." I smiled politely. "I'm considering starting my own agency." Every single one asked the next question before I could even finish. If you leave, can we work with you instead? I never pressured anyone. I never criticized my employer. I simply told them the truth. If you stay here, Richard will personally oversee your accounts. Then, nervous laughter. And if we move, you'll continue working directly with me. That was it. The decision was entirely theirs. Friday afternoon arrived. I printed my resignation letter. 1 page, professional, respectful, no dramatic speeches, no accusations, no emotional outburst. Monday morning, I walked into Richard's office. I've decided to resign. He leaned back in his chair. So, you actually chose to leave? I did. When's your last day? Today. His smile grew even wider. I think you're making a huge mistake. Maybe. He folded the letter without even reading it. Good luck finding another job. I'm not looking for one. He laughed. Everyone says that. I simply nodded, packed my desk, said goodbye to my coworkers, walked out carrying one small box. No dramatic exit, no shouting, no celebration, just silence. For the first time in years, I felt free. The next morning, I was setting up my new office. Actually, office is a generous word. It was my spare bedroom, 1 desk, 1 laptop, 1 coffee machine, and a whole lot of hope. At exactly 9:12 a.m., my phone rang. At exactly 9:12 a.m., my phone rang. It was the procurement manager from our biggest client. We've completed the paperwork. For what? We're moving our account to your new agency. For just a second, I couldn't speak. Then I smiled. Thank you. I promise you won't regret it. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Another client, same decision. 20 minutes after that, the 3rd client signed. I stared at my inbox. 3 contracts, 3 signatures, 3 clients, almost my entire previous workload. By lunchtime, my new company was already profitable. Around 2 o'clock, my phone lit up. Richard. I watched it ring, then let it stop. A minute later, he called again, then again, and again. By the end of the afternoon, I had 12 missed calls, 8 emails, 3 text messages. His final voicemail sounded nothing like the confident manager I'd left yesterday. Please call me. We need to discuss what's happening. I waited until evening, not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted to answer calmly. Finally, I called him back. He answered, before the first ring finished. What did you tell them? The truth. You stole my clients. No, they chose. They belong to this company. I closed my eyes for a second. They belonged to the relationships. Nothing. Absolute silence. Then, his breathing became noticeably heavier. You planned this. No, you told me to leave. His voice changed. The anger was disappearing. Now, he sounded desperate. I can offer you a promotion. No, thank you. A salary increase. I'm happy where I am. What will it take? There isn't a number. Another silence, longer this time. Finally, I spoke. I genuinely hope things work out for you. Goodbye, Richard. That was the last real conversation we ever had. Over the next 6 months, my tiny agency grew faster than I ever imagined. Those first 3 clients recommended me to 5 more companies. Those 5 introduced me to even more. Soon, my calendar was completely full. I hired my first employee, then a second. A few months later, we moved into a real office, a place that actually had conference rooms instead of my spare bedroom. The funny part, several former coworkers started applying for jobs with me. Not because I asked them to, because Richard's department was falling apart. Without the client revenue, Richard's department started falling apart. Budgets disappeared. Projects were canceled. Layoffs soon followed. Eventually, upper management started asking the obvious question. Why had so many major clients left at the same time? They interviewed every client. The answers were surprisingly consistent. Not one client mentioned pricing. Not one complained about our results. Not one said they found a better agency. Every single client gave the same answer. We followed the person we trusted. Richard eventually lost his management position, not because I destroyed his career, because his own leadership did. Looking back now, I've had plenty of time to think about what really happened. The biggest mistake my boss ever made wasn't underpaying me. It wasn't stealing credit. It wasn't micromanaging. It wasn't even giving me an ultimatum. His biggest mistake was believing that loyalty could be forced. It can't. Clients don't stay because of logos. Employees don't stay because of titles. People stay because someone earns their trust every single day. Richard thought business was about power. I learned it was always about relationships. The day he looked me in the eye and said, "Do your job or leave," he thought he was ending my career. Instead, he accidentally gave me permission to build a better future. And when the clients finally had a choice, they didn't choose the company. They chose the person who had been doing the work all along. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't watching someone fail. It's building a life so successful that they finally understand exactly what they lost. Not through anger, not through revenge,